3. Most real-life night duty horror stories. Have you ever noticed how the world feels different at night? Like reality itself bends when the rest of the world is asleep. The air is heavier, the silence too deep, and sometimes, if you listen closely, it's not silence at all. Because the night has secrets, things that lurk just beyond the edge of your vision, things that don't belong in the daylight. For those who work night shifts, it's more than just exhaustion and empty hallways. Sometimes it's the feeling of being watched when no one is there. Sometimes it's hearing a voice whisper your name from a room that's been locked for years. These aren't just stories. They happened to real people. People who thought they were just doing their jobs until the night made them question everything they knew about reality. 3 stories. 3 people who stepped into the darkness and never saw the world the same way again. But after hearing these, you might think twice before ever working a night shift.
Story 1. The last room on the 7th floor you've ever seen something that shouldn't exist. Something that breaks every rule of reality, yet no one talks about it. If you've ever worked the night shift in a hospital, you probably have. Because hospitals at night, they aren't like hospitals during the day. The silence is different. It's heavier. Like something is pressing down on the air itself. The fluorescent lights hum just a little too loud. And the hallways, they stretch longer than they should. But the worst part, it's not the silence. It's what you hear inside of it. Whispers, footsteps where there shouldn't be any. And if you're unlucky, a voice calling your name. It was a security guard who first told me about room 707. Miguel had been working the night shift for years. He was the kind of guy who had seen everything: patients losing their minds, doctors passing out in hallways, even the occasional body going missing from the morgue. Nothing rattled him. But when I asked him about room 707, his face changed. He told me in a low, serious voice, "We don't talk about that room. Every hospital has its stories. But 707, that wasn't just a story. It started small. The lights inside that room would flicker, but maintenance never found anything wrong. The motion sensor by the door would go off at random hours, but the cameras never showed anyone entering. And then the shadows started appearing. Nurses walking past would swear they saw someone inside just standing there, barely visible through the small window in the door. But whenever someone checked, the room was empty. And it wasn't just the staff, patients who stayed in the rooms next to it. They'd complain about whispers at night, not full conversations, just fragments, like someone talking through a radio full of static, and one phrase kept repeating, "Help me." Some nurses refused to go near it. Others laughed it off. But then, one night, a nurse named Alina decided to prove everyone wrong. She was new. She didn't believe in ghost stories. She wasn't afraid of some stupid room. That night, a little past 3 a.m., she walked up to room 707. Miguel was watching from the security feed. He saw her pause outside the door, tilting her head like she heard something. Then she stepped inside. The door swung shut behind her. Miguel waited, watching the monitor. 1 minute passed, then to dot. After 5 minutes, he got a bad feeling. He radioed her. No response. He switched to the hallway cameras, waiting to see her step back out. She never did. He rewound the footage, playing it back. Alina walks in, but there is no footage of her ever walking out. Miguel felt his stomach drop. He checked his radio again, his hands starting to sweat. Alina, do you copy? Silence. Miguel grabbed his flashlight and rushed to the 7th floor. The hallway was too quiet when he got there. That deep, unnatural silence that makes your skin crawl. He walked toward 707. The door was slightly open. Inside, nothing. No Alina. No sign she had ever been there. Just an empty bed, a chair, and an old heart monitor. He checked everywhere. Under it, in the tiny bathroom, even inside the closet. Nothing. But here's where it gets worse. Miguel called in backup. Within minutes, nurses, doctors, and even the hospital director were on the floor. They checked the system. There was no record of Alina ever entering that room. No access log. No key card entry. It was like she had never been there at all. And then the phone call came. The front desk got a call from Elena's phone. The receptionist answered, expecting to hear her voice. Maybe a panicked explanation, but there was nothing. Just static dot, and beneath it, something else, something wet, ragged, like someone breathing right against the microphone. The call lasted 13 seconds before cutting out. They traced the location. The call came from room 707. By morning, the hospital was full lockdown mode, but there was nothing to find. No trace of Alina. No clue as to where she had gone. And then something even stranger happened. When Miguel checked the employee database, Alina's file was gone. Not deactivated, not marked as resigned, just gone, like she had never worked there in the first place. At the time, the hospital called it a computer error. But the night shift workers, they knew better. After that night, room 707 was sealed off. No one cleaned it. No one entered. Patients were no longer placed in the rooms near it. But some nights, the security feed still picks up movement inside. A flicker of a white uniform passing by the window. A shadow standing in the corner of the room. And the motion sensor still goes off. Always around 3:13 a.m. The worst part, the hospital system still logs a single heart rate. A slow, steady rhythm, barely there, even though the room is empty. Even though Alina was never found. But if you ask the night shift workers, the ones who have seen the shadows, heard the whispers, they'll tell you, room 707 isn't empty. It never was.
Story 2. The man at the gas station. You ever see something you know isn't real, but your eyes refuse to look away? That deep, gut-wrenching feeling that something is wrong, but you can't explain why. That's what happened to me, and ever, since that night. I don't trust my own reflection. I used to work the night shift at a small gas station on the outskirts of town, one of those places where no one ever stops unless they're desperate. Just me, the register, and the sound of crickets outside. Most nights were dead quiet. Maybe 1 or 2 cars, the occasional trucker stopping for coffee. But then, there was him. It started with a glance at the security monitors. At 2:13 a.m., I saw a man standing near pump bar 4, not moving, not filling up his car, just standing there. His clothes looked old, outdated, like something from decades ago. His face was turned toward the station, but I couldn't make out his features, just an outline. I watched the screen for a while, waiting for him to move. He never did. Eventually, I got up to check, stepping toward the glass doors, but outside, there was no one there. Pump number 4 was empty. The lot was silent. I went back inside, shaking it off. Maybe I was just tired. Maybe the cameras had glitched, but the next night, he was there again. Same time, 2:13 a.m., same pump, same motionless stance, and this time I stared harder. Something felt off, unnatural. So I did something I shouldn't have done. I rewound the security footage, playing it back frame by frame, and that's when I saw it. From 2:12 to 2:14 a.m. There was nothing. No man, no movement. But I was looking at the live feed, and he was standing right there. I felt the air in the room shift. My skin went cold. I slammed the laptop shut. I didn't sleep that morning, the night I confronted him. The next night I told myself I wouldn't look at the cameras. I'd keep my head down, ignore whatever was outside, and finish my shift. But curiosity is a dangerous thing. At 2:13 a.m. I gave in. I lifted my head, and he was there. Same spot, same stillness. But this time, he was closer. He wasn't just by pump 4 anymore. He was facing the glass doors. And now, I could finally see his face. Or at least I thought I could. His features were blurry, like a smudged photograph. His eyes, empty sockets, no light, no reflection. Every muscle in my body screamed at me to look away. But I didn't. I don't know what made me do it. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe it was stupidity. But I stepped outside. The second my foot hit the pavement, the air turned thick like I was pushing through water. The sound of the night, the crickets, the hum of the gas station sign, vanished. Everything was silent. I took another step. The man moved. Not normally. 1 second he was at pump number 4. The next he was inches from my face. I didn't see him move. He was just there. I couldn't breathe. Up close his skin was wrong. Not skin at all, but something else. Something stretched too tight over his bones. And then he spoke. No lips moved. No expression changed. But I heard it inside my head. You let me in. That's the last thing I remember. The next morning, I woke up inside the gas station. My head was pounding. My uniform was damp with sweat. The clock read 7:42 a.m. The doors were still locked. The register untouched. The security footage, nothing. Not a single second of me stepping outside. It was like the last 5 hours had been erased. I told myself I was dreaming, that none of it happened. But then, I checked the pumps. Pump 4. It was still running, even though no one had paid. Even though the handle was still in its holder. It was dispensing gas on its own. And it's been doing that every single night since. The last time I saw him, I quit the next day. But a few weeks later, I was driving past the station, and I made the mistake of glancing in my rearview mirror. For a split second, in the reflection, I saw pump number 4, and standing next to it was him. Except this time, he was looking right at me, and he was smiling. Final thought and background music. Suggestion: if you ever work the night shift at a lonely gas station, don't check the cameras. And whatever you do, never step outside.
stretched, their mouths widening into impossibly large grins. Their hands reached out, fingers long and twisted. I slammed on the controls, desperate to speed up, to get out of there. But the train wouldn't respond, and then one of them, a woman with long, tangled hair, appeared right outside my window. Her face was wrong, warped like someone had taken a photo and pulled it in all directions. Her eyes met mine, and she spoke. Her voice was a chorus of whispers, echoing through the cab. "Stay with us!" The train lurched forward, the light at the end of the tunnel growing brighter. The figures began to fade, their shapes dissolving into the shadows. And then we burst out into the open air. The aftermath blinked against the sudden light, my heart pounding in my chest. I checked the time. 4 hours had passed, but the trip was supposed to take 30 minutes. When I reported the incident, the officials looked at me like I was crazy. They checked the route. There was no tunnel, no sign of it, no record on the map. But I know what I saw. That night, I quit. I never set foot on a train again. But sometimes late at night, I still hear the sound of that tunnel, the hum of the train, the whisper of the figures along the tracks, and in my dreams, I see the sign, "Welcome back."
The secrets of the night. Night shifts are different from the day. When the world is asleep, the rules seem to change. Shadows stretch longer, sounds echo where there should be silence, and sometimes you see things that shouldn't be there. A hospital room that erases people from existence. A man at a gas station who doesn't appear on camera. A tunnel that swallows time itself. These weren't just stories. They were real experiences, things that happened to people who, just like you, thought they were alone in the dark, but the night has secrets. And sometimes, it doesn't let go. So if you ever find yourself working the night shift, alone in an empty hallway, at a gas station far from town, or driving through unfamiliar roads, pay attention. That flickering light? That shadow in the corner of your eye? That feeling of being watched when no one's there? You're not imagining it. Because some things don't just happen in horror movies. They happen when the rest of the world is asleep. And if you're not careful, they might happen to you. Precautions for the night shift: trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, don't ignore it. Stay in well-lit areas. Darkness hides more than just shadows. Avoid looking too long into mirrors or security screens. You might see something that sees you back. Never break routine. If something tries to lead you somewhere new, don't follow. If you made it this far, congratulations. But don't leave just yet. Are you ready for bone-chilling horror stories from real-life night shift workers? These are not just urban legends. They are first-hand experiences that will make you think twice before working a night shift. From a haunted hospital room to a mysterious gas station figure and a train route that defies logic, these stories will leave you shaken. Story 1. The last room on the 7th floor. A hospital room where a nurse vanished without a trace. Story 2. The man at the gas station. A shadowy figure appears every night but never on security footage. Story 3. The tunnel. That shouldn't exist. A train enters a ghostly tunnel that was never supposed to be there. If you work night shifts, beware. Some things can't be explained. Like and subscribe for more terrifying true horror stories. Turn on notifications so you never miss a chilling upload. Let us know in the comments. Have you ever experienced something eerie on a night shift? Horror story.